You are now listening to
Chakras and Shotguns. Welcome to Chakras and Shotguns, the podcast that guides you on a journey of spiritual development and personal preparedness. I'm Jen, a former lawyer, yogi, and human design lover.
And I'm Mik, a marketer, energy healer, and prepper.
Have you ever felt like you didn't really belong here? Maybe you're too classy for this world, forever you're that girl. And this feeling is more than just feeling a little socially awkward. There may be a reason for that. Today, we're getting into starseeds, people who may have incarnated into this lifetime as a human, as we all are, but their origins may be among the stars. Aliens, this is what I'm talking about. We're finally getting into aliens. And yes, Mik and I have connections to the starseeds.
But before we get into that weird stuff, we had our live full moon workshop a couple of weeks ago. It was a great time. We got into some journaling, some breath work, some exercises on release. Jen pulled some tarot cards. I had a little channel message that I received like the day before that I decided to share. So if you missed it, no worries. You can access the recording by being one of our patrons. Click the link in our show notes, and that'll make sure you don't miss the next one.
Yeah, it was really, really good. All right, let's do some breath work and get ourselves to a mindful place before we dive into the main topic. So go ahead and find a comfortable seat. You can always lie down. I wish I was lying down right now. And let's start to connect with our breath. Maybe put a hand on your belly, a hand on your heart. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more grounding, if you're seated, place your palms face down, maybe on your knees. If you feel like you want to be in a more receptive energy, place your hands face up. Just play around with finding your space. Let's take a deep inhale in through the nose, expanding your belly, and then sigh that breath out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose, maybe shrugging your shoulders up to your ears and holding that breath. And as you exhale, release those shoulders back down and completely empty yourself of air. Last one together, inhaling in through your nose. And then exhale this breath back out through your nose. Allowing yourself to breathe naturally in and out through your nose. Continuing to release any tension in your face, releasing your tongue from the roof of your mouth, relaxing your jaw. Where are you maybe holding? Just allowing that to sink, release, find a little bit more ease as we enter this visualization together. I want you to imagine yourself floating in space. Just in a black, inky, deep part of space, and that you're floating and you're completely at ease. There's nothing to look at, there's nothing to hear. And find comfort as this space holds you. As thoughts come to your mind, as they may during this visualization, that's okay. Just observe them and return to the practice, return to what we're visualizing together. As you're floating through space, I want you to now visualize yourself surrounded by a inky, deep purple light. Almost like it's a cocoon of light. As you see that purple surrounding you, I want you to imagine that cocoon of light starting to spread throughout the universe, as it represents your connection to cosmic consciousness, collective consciousness, and allow yourself to feel connected. As you're sitting in this feeling, if other things pop up, images, sounds, thoughts, just allow them to come through, unconcerned. Now I would like you to start pulling that purple light back towards yourself, back to that cocoon. And then let that light absorb and slowly shrink into you until it's just covering the crown of your head. You're back floating in that deep space. And slowly allow yourself to ground back into this moment, back into your body. Maybe start to flicker your eyes open, wiggling your fingers and your toes, and come back into the room slowly. All right.
Thanks, Jen. That was dope.
You're welcome. That was a little crown chakra visualization. Our crown chakra is represented by the color deep purple, and it's all about connecting outside of yourself to cosmic consciousness in the universal consciousness, which I feel like we could probably do an episode on that too, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And so that gets you to the stars, that gets you to outer space. I feel like that was apropos for what we're getting into today.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we are getting into some out there things today. So as Jen said in the lead-in, we're talking aliens today. Now, I know some of y'all might be like the dude in that meme who takes his headphones out of his ear because the music is bad. You know what I'm talking about? But hold on for a second. Just bear with us.
Yeah, we know it's out there, but it is a concept that Mik and I ran into a few times. The more we learned about different spiritual concepts, space-time ideas, and past lives. However, as with all things that we discuss, look, take what resonates with you. If you're into it, you into it. And if you're not, leave it behind.
All right, so starseeds, what are they? So starseeds are individuals who believe that they had a previous life in another planet or dimension, and in this current incarnation, they've come to Earth. So we talked about past lives before with Marcy Barron on episode 52, and basically this is another aspect in this belief on reincarnation. The idea of starseeds can be traced back to ancient wisdom traditions that talk about the origins of humanity and the cosmos. The concept gained popularity in the 1960s and 70s as part of the larger New Age spiritual movement.
Yeah, so that gets us to where this belief or the idea or the concept has kind of made its way into Western culture, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly from where are these star seeds originating from? Mik mentioned planets, different dimensions. There are several groups of alien civilizations that have been adopted as the main ones that are incarnating on Earth. So basically, I like to think about this like who are the top 5 nations that be visiting Rome? You know, you got the Americans, the French. You probably have some people from Australia, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like the top 5, and in no particular order, right? But like these are the ones that people mention a lot. So you'll hear about the Lemurians, the Acturians, the Syrians, the Lyrans. They look like cats. The Palladians are very popular. And of course, there's many others.
Yeah, I think there's like 22 that like a lot of astrologers will work with, but there's like even more than that outside of that. So yeah, a bunch. I think all of these, though, they get their names a lot of times from different constellations and like different galaxies in which they like originate in. That's where a lot of these names come from.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. Think about this as like the tourism board for Earth. And this is just like what we're keeping track on. But as we said, bear with us. You're hearing about aliens incarnating as humans. Like, what the fuck? And that objectively can sound very out there. No pun intended.
Yeah.
This concept of starseeds has actually been met with a lot of pushback and called pseudoscience. I ran across a lot of articles that were like, starseeds is a bunch of bullshit. And it was like, well, what I found interesting in each of those articles were they had no facts to combat that.
Exactly. There's no way to like scientifically prove this right now. We don't have the instrumentation right now. And we didn't have the instrumentation to prove a lot of things that we accept as science now.
Right.
100 years ago. So who knows? In the next 100 years, maybe we'll be able to actually prove this. So for now, it's to like keep an open mind. I think for me, just thinking about how there's all these instances of like little kids who like have these past lives of being on Earth. It's totally possible that you could have had a past life in a different part of the universe, right?
Which is studied by like legitimate government funded organizations study and document these children who are experiencing their past life before this current life that they're incarnated in. So like sometimes just like do a little digging. And I think what always gives me trepidation about ideas like this is like, I'm always scared like I'm a hop, skip, and jump away from like full tinfoil hat conspiracy land. It's like, do your research. And it's like, there's plenty of people out here who say they did their research and it really was a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think I've come to find that when you start digging and you see like the CIA is like, oh yeah. And the government is like, yeah, girl. Then it's okay to be like, I think this is true.
To that point, I mean, we know the government recently came out and were like, yeah, we monitoring all these UFOs. We see them. We're not going to rule out aliens, And I think for me, just kind of thinking about looking up in the sky, right? There's all these stars. There are billions of them out there, right? And so to think that in this vast, infinite universe that we happen to be the only intelligent life in this huge, huge space, that feels very arrogant.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, logically, my brain is like, there's got to be something out there.
Also, let's just sit in the fact that like the government has been seeing these UFOs, and for them to just very calmly to be like, yeah, we see them. The first time they saw one of the motherfuckers, they were like, what the fuck? Start a branch. Assign Scotty on this. We've got to get somebody looking into this.
Got to get Space Force on it.
So to come out in like 2022, 2023, it was like, girl, we've been seeing them UFOs. Yeah. They've gotten very comfortable with that.
All right, so let's talk about starseeds and some signs that you may have had a previous incarnation on another one of these galaxies or star systems. So, 1, you feel like you don't belong on Earth. Starseeds often feel a sense of homesickness for a place that they've never actually been, and they may feel like they don't fit in with the rest of humanity. If you had the chance to listen to our episode on past life regressions with Marcy Barron, she actually talked about her daughter and how her daughter was longing to go home. And it was very clear in the conversation with her daughter that, the daughter basically was not talking about their home in New Jersey, right? Like it was somewhere else.
I've felt this one very deeply. And it hit me. I think I didn't know what to call it, but the idea of it hit me in college when I went to a very big public school, huge football program, and everybody was just like, ah, the team. And like the rivalries were so big. And I was like, who gives a shit? Like, I just like did not care. And I was like, maybe I just don't like sports. But like people, I used to be fascinated by people joining groups and how much they tied their identity to that group. And I was like, this is weird. And like that sense of belonging to something didn't really resonate with me. I was just like, I don't really I felt like I didn't belong because I didn't want to belong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I felt it a lot of times at work. Like people be rah-rah drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't think that's cool to say anymore, but you know what I meant. They were really into like being a company man, and I was just like never really feeling that. I couldn't buy into. It was like, no, this is just a job. Like I'm just here to
a job
to get this check. And they were like, we really want you to be engaged and all about engagement. And like, I was like, I guess.
I know. I do think though some of that is like being Black and a millennial.
Well, I used to
in like white corporate culture.
I used to think that, but like I've felt it like with pretty much every job I've ever had.
Oh,
so
okay.
like from the age of 16, like I've kind of felt like, this is cool, but like when it's payday. So anyway, another sign that you could potentially be a starseed, you have a deep sense of empathy. So starseeds are often highly empathic and sensitive to the emotions of others. They may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of emotions on Earth, whether that's like the intensity of their love for the football program at your school.
Weirdos.
And they, may struggle to understand why people behave the way they do, right?
You and I have been having some recent conversations, just like anytime we hear one of these like weird stories where people just don't think outside of themselves. And I'm often expressed to you, like, I don't understand why empathy is not a prerequisite skill. Like we actually had a conversation like this week, and I was like, I was never sat down really and taught how to empathize.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
But like the way my empathy works, I don't think it was really nurture. I think it was just nature. And so I've always been like, what you mean? Until it impacts you, you don't give a damn. Like, I don't get it.
That's weird. Another sign, you have a heightened intuition. So starseeds are often highly intuitive and may have psychic abilities such as clairvoyance or telepathy. They may have a sense of knowing things without being able to explain how they know them. So claircognizance. We've talked a lot about that, right?
Yeah. And for that one, if you're listening to this list and you're like, well, I don't know about that one, think also about when you were a child.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes children are a lot more open. They haven't been conditioned to be like, that's not real. So think about did you have an imaginary friend? Did you say things to older people like your parents or your grandparents and they were like, you are a spooky ass little kid? So just maybe think about that and maybe think about how you can get back to that sense of heightened intuition, not being spooky, but getting back to your intuitive self.
Yeah. Me and my sister had very vivid imaginary friends. Like that was with the homies. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Not the homies.
The homies. We couldn't go nowhere without the homies. So moving on though, you have a strong sense of purpose. So starseeds often feel a deep sense of purpose or mission. They may be driven to help others or make a positive impact on the world. They may have a sense that they are here for a specific reason and can, get frustrated or feel unfulfilled if they're not able to fulfill that purpose. Yeah, I felt this one.
Okay.
I think it goes back to work, right? Like I think I worked at these companies that like sell products that don't really have a huge impact on the betterment of the world. And I'd be sitting there like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm over here selling soda.
Soda's tasty.
But it ain't helping nobody, and it's not good for your health.
It's not.
So, it wasn't in alignment for me to be goo-ga and excited and rah-rah for selling more cases of soda.
But ginger ale is, I homeopathic.
It does have some. That might be a hoodoo thing, got some medicinal properties. So anyway, the last thing is just it's more technical. It's like looking at your full astrology chart, and so a lot of starseed astrologers, and we'll talk a little bit more about our experiences with starseed astrologers, but they'll look at a chart, and if they see planets that are at specific degrees, so degrees like 25, 26, or 27 degrees, they can basically use those to identify that you're starseed and specifically which starseed you originate from.
So you listen to this list and you're like, yeah, that does kind of sound like me. Now what? What's the point? And that's great that you may have an inkling or you feel like some of these things may resonate with you. So you might be asking yourself, so why did I incarnate as a human at this time? And it goes back to that strong sense of purpose. According to believers in the concept of starseeds, these individuals have a specific mission or purpose on Earth. So if you feel like you have a strong sense of purpose, you're tired of selling soda, maybe that's indicative that there is something that you are being called to do. Some of these missions may include to help humanity evolve. And don't we need it in these United States? Starseeds are often seen as beings who have come to Earth to assist with the spiritual evolution of humanity. And so they may do this by sharing their knowledge and wisdom or by simply being a positive influence on those around them. I know this is kind of weird to think about, but there are people who they don't have to do anything. They don't have to smile. They don't have to tell somebody. They don't have to pay it forward. They don't tell somebody, oh, you look cute today. They can just be in the grocery store. Somebody pass them in the aisle and energetically they are creating a positive influence. And we don't know what that looks like and what the domino effects of that are. But like, just think about like any time travel type movie and like one thing gets changed and it shifts the whole timeline.
For sure.
So that's fascinating to me, just thinking about like just energetically. And I think it's a really good challenge of like, getting rid of negative self-talk and like trying to be sometimes high vibrationals become like a annoying thing. Like, oh, this is high vibe. Yeah. But like trying to like keep your vibration high, like take care of yourself and your thoughts and doing your inner work and like just trying to be a more joyful, happy being and what impact that can make on others around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of reading about the human energy field and how it extends out, right? How far it can extend out. And basically different people can have different radius of energy. So, right, what you're talking about is like someone who body emits a large amount of high vibrational energy and it extends out in a high radius. So, yeah.
I don't know when I thought about body, yada, 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 yada. It was like their body. I was like, body, yada, yada. It's vibrating,
Okay. It's not where I was going, but all right, I'm with you.
Some other missions can be to heal others. Remember, starseeds are often highly empathic and they may have a natural talent for healing. They may work as healers or therapists, or they may simply offer support and guidance to those who need it. I think this is also a really great time that what I found a little bit difficult on this spiritual journey is that sometimes you're like, wow, that's great. And then like somebody will say something completely opposite. Because a lot of times they also say that people who are highly empathic are probably experience like traumatic childhoods. Like they had to be hyper vigilant and constantly monitor other people's emotions. So, it's not one or the other. Just see what fits. And I don't, sometimes I'm like, it doesn't have to completely be partly dark to experience the light. Because I think it's something very beautiful about being empathic. Mm-hmm. You also might be here to awaken others. They are seen as awakeners, starseeds are, and they help others to see beyond the illusions of everyday life. They may do this by sharing their knowledge and wisdom, or again, just being out here vibing.
So yeah, I mean, these missions, that really just feels like another way of explaining a divine calling for the overall collective. You know, they say in church, baby, you got a calling on your life. That's basically what it is. So the idea is that starseeds have come to Earth at this particular time in history to help humanity through a period of transformation and awakening, right? So they go into a lot of, in some of this literature, you can read about it. They talk about like how some of these other civilizations are so much more advanced, right? And so the starseed has, experienced the life in this more advanced society, and their next incarnation is on Earth. And the idea is they bring some of that knowledge and energy and wisdom with them to this planet to kind of help us get over the hump and get toward a higher level of development.
So it's like if we went to the 1300s, England, and we taught people how to wash their hands.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to think of myself as being in 1300s of England, but
Well, I mean, take out the slavery and the racism. And we introduce hand sanitizer. Wow, what a difference.
So yeah, I mean, the goal, as you said before, is all about raising that vibration, getting into a higher vibe planet as a whole, and helping humanity to awaken to its true nature as spiritual beings.
And I feel like in the United States in particular, because that's where we live, shit's getting crazy. We have a governor in Florida. Well, I'm not going to claim him. They have a governor in Florida who's doing some wild, like, let's set us back, very Nazi fascist-esque legislation. And it can feel like we're going backwards. But at the same time, I feel like there are more conversations and people are implementing more energetic types of spiritual practices, no matter what their religion is. Like, I feel like people are going to therapy more. People are talking about energy and like respecting their energy and not wanting negativity around them, being more careful about the shows that they watch and the things that they consume. And so it's not as, and maybe this is my algorithm put me in a bubble, but it's not so crazy to hear about people talking about Reiki, seeing a Reiki practitioner.
I saw athletes. So Draymond Green has been on TV talking about himself seeing a Reiki practitioner. And even Ja Morant recently, I don't know if he on his chakras and shotguns vibe or what, but
he on the shotguns part. Pew pew.
Well, he said he went and got some Reiki, so maybe he's trying to get closer to his chakras too and get them aligned. I don't know, but he didn't been on IG again with a gun now, so hit me up, Ja, if you need some more Reiki.
Yeah, he might have went just one time. But people are also incorporating traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism, acupuncture, like all of these different modalities where for the longest time it was like, I'm sick, I'm going to get a pill. And that could be spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. It didn't matter. That we had kind of a one size fits all way of treating things. And now I think people are blending a lot of them together and seeing what works for them. And I think that's really beautiful to see. I'm hopeful. I really am. I have no other choice to be. It can be disappointing seeing people not having empathy for others and for others' children, but I really am hoping for the best. So this is a great concept to believe in, that there are millions of starseeds out here and we out here vibing, trying to raise consciousness and all of the things. And I think before the spiritual journey, someone would say, "Oh, this has been debunked as pseudoscience," and I would just be like, "Well, throw the whole concept away." But really, what that means is that we don't have, as Mik said, we don't have the tools to measure that today. And so with Starseeds, it's like, yeah, can I study this and put it on that trifold poster board and do an 8th grade science project with like hypothesis. Oh my gosh. Hypothesis through to conclusion? Maybe not. But that's spirituality and that's belief and faith, right? believing what you might not be able to see or like fully ascertain and like hold in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my thoughts on it.
I feel that. It's probably a good time to get into our own connections with the Starseeds. So about a year ago, Jen and I had readings with an astrologer named Donna Diane, and she has the ability to look at your birth chart, and she's, trained in traditional astrology as well, but then she can also provide insights about your astrology that incorporate your starseeds. So a few things that stood out from that reading for me. One, so I am a Taurus rising. I have a lot of Taurus in my chart, and her insight around that was that I do have starseeds, and the Taurus energy helps to keep me grounded. And I don't have that same feeling of homesickness that we discussed earlier that a lot of starseeds have. Like they feel like they don't belong on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so like by having so much Earth and grounding energy in my chart, it helps, me to stay planted here on Earth. She also mentioned that there's a lot of water elements in my chart. So I'm a Pisces moon. And she said it was really important for me emotionally to tap in and be near water, which makes sense now that we live out here in LA. And she also talked about shamanism showing up in my chart really heavily, right? And so that's something that I've gotten into. Even before that reading, I started my journey in shamanism. So it's interesting to kind of see it confirmed in the chart there, right?
Yeah. She had no idea about it. She had your birthday and birth time. That's it.
So jumping into some of the starseeds. So as we mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different starseeds out there. I can't remember the exact number that they've documented or whatever, but it's over 100. And there were a few that she pointed out in my chart. So starting first with the Pleiadians. So apparently the Pleiadians are like the cool kids. They're the popular crew. Everybody want to be a Pleiadian. And I think it's due to, there was this book, Bringers of the Dawn, that came out a while ago. And it had a lot of Pleiadian teachings in it. And I guess it made the Pleiadians sound really cool. I haven't read the book. Maybe I should, since I have that starseed in my chart. But yeah, apparently everybody want to be down with the Pleiadians. So I got an invite to that party. Pleiadians are highly sensitive. They are natural healers. They have talent for Reiki and acupuncture. So makes sense. Pleiadians also tend to be drawn to environmentalism and like caring about the earth. And, I'm a plant dad. I've been growing my stuff out, in the house, outside. So yeah, that's the Pleiadians. Another one that she mentioned, Alpha Centauri. So this is one that's not as common. They are known for being very intellectually curious, always trying to read stuff, big bookworms, nerdy, the whole deal.
That's my boo.
Exactly. Sound like me. They are also big on utilizing technology to bring about spiritual liberation. So, chakras and shotguns, technology.
Yeah.
Boom. Then the last one that she mentioned was another one that's not very common. It's a smaller one called Cygnus. They apparently, when they incarnate on Earth, they tend to be huge money savers. And we've talked a little bit about our financial journey as a couple and how very early in our marriage, I was all about the budget, making sure we were saving that money. They also can be highly technical. They can often be quiet. They're also very punctual. And I'm definitely that dude, not always there when you call.
But you're always on time. Early.
That's me. So that one definitely resonated as well. So those are the starseeds that I had in my chart.
Nice.
What about you?
Yes. So going into my reading with Donna, I wanted to confirm a connection that I felt that I had to the Lemurians and the Lyrans. I was in a deep meditation and I saw this group of people and they were all wearing like these robes. They were all blonde. And I was like, what kind of children of the corn shit is this?
Like, that's not my ancestors.
Okay. So what did I do when I ran into anything at that period of time? I texted Melanie Esperanza. I was like, Melanie, girl, I saw these people. And she was like, they sound like Lemurians. Why don't you look it up? And I did. And people have made illustrations of them. And I was like, whoa. And they're fascinating. Look up the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, but I've always told Mik, our imagination is only like 1 degree off from what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
So Atlanteans are from Atlantis, and Lemurians are rumored to live under Mount Shasta in California. So very fascinating, ancient human civilizations on Earth that were very technologically advanced that we just like lost connection with.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. And I've also seen Lyrans in meditations before, which are cat-like beings. So, which is real freaky deaky. And I'm, being vulnerable right now, telling y'all about these crazy things that I see. But she confirmed that I did have a connection with the Lemurians in my chart. I did not have a connection with the Lyrians, but that didn't necessarily mean... It just meant that I wasn't Lyran in another incarnation. It just meant that maybe I had an affinity for it, or I was very much so connected with the cosmos in that meditation. So a few things that came up in that reading... Specific to Starseeds, she also mentioned a civilization called the Mintakans, and these are a group that actually aren't talked about that often. They originated from the constellation Orion and are believed to be the first beings to travel to Earth, colonizers, gang. They have an affinity to water, which it's funny because growing up in Texas, which is like, landlocked. I didn't grow up in Houston, so I didn't even get to Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
There was like some man-made lakes around. And I would have never really said that I had an affinity to water. And even when I had the reading, it was before we moved. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like I used to tell people I wanted a pool in the backyard, but not to get in it. I just wanted to sit by it, which I was like, I guess I like to bathe. I like showers. So I drink a lot of water. I drink more water than the average camel. But now that we live in LA and particularly we live close to the beach, I'm like, I can't move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not moving further inland
mm-hmm.
in LA because I have to be by the water. I have to see it at least, even if I can't go to the beach. So that really resonated with me. Another thing specifically in my chart that I thought was really interesting from a past life reincarnation perspective was the concept of skipped steps. And then apparently with reincarnation, every time that your soul is about to be incarnated, you sit down, you're like, look, this is what I want to do in this life. And they're like, all right, cool. So apparently there was something that I needed to do in each life and I kept skipping it. And I was just like, I'm good. And so apparently this time they were like, all right, girl, it's the 80s on Earth. You're about to be born. Your name's going to be Jennifer. This is what you're going to do. You've been skipping this step and you can't skip it no more.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no more skips in the Uno deck. You got to do it. And that skip step was about tapping into my intuition and my spiritual gifts. And then apparently in a previous life, I might have been institutionalized or shunned or shamed for that gift. And I have felt like, I think that's why I said that point about think back to your childhood, because there were things that I did as a child that it was like, whoa, what's that? How did you know that? And why did you say that? And that I kind of closed myself off to that. And as I've opened myself up, look, I do tarot readings now. It's like, oh, okay. So embracing that. And then the last thing that really stood out for me in that reading is a generational thing, that there are generational transits and things that appear in each generation, and that millennials are specifically here to shift consciousness. And when you think about millennials and everything that has kind of happened in millennial lifetime, it's like we didn't really have a choice. Like we are not here to stick with the status quo. And I feel like we're the line in the sand, because Gen Z is definitely on some other shit. And then what's the next one after that? Alpha.
Yeah.
They definitely on some other shit. And I feel like we're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to shift here. And then it's going to just go how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
For sure. So guys, if you are interested in having one of these readings, this is not something that you want to jump into as your first astrological reading.
Mm-mm.
You want to have had a couple with some other astrologers, work your way up to this, be comfortable with the concept of aliens and reincarnations. And if you are still interested and want to talk to Donna, shoot us a DM and we'll pass along her information. She doesn't do a lot of marketing. It's really all like word of mouth. She's not looking to have a ton of clients. She's more interested in talking to people who are more advanced or further along in their spiritual journey and kind of helping them to connect with the Starseed. So hit us up in the DMs if you want that information.
Yeah, I would say if you're interested in astrology, you've never had a reading before, start with a natal chart reading. And then if you want to explore transits, that's like level 2. Then I think if you're really, really interested in starseeds and this is really resonating with you and you think that this is something that really speaks to you, then DM us and we'll pass along Donna's information.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to learn more about specific types of starseed civilizations, maybe some of the ones we talked about resonate with you, we'll definitely put some helpful sites in the show notes. If you're a reader, definitely check out Dolores Cannon's books. We have both read Keepers of the Garden and The 3 Waves of Volunteers. If you want to dig more into past lives in general, we definitely recommend Dr. Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters. It's written by a psychiatrist who had a patient, and the psychiatrist himself, he was a skeptic, but the patient made him a true believer in reincarnation through the sessions that they had together.
Mm-hmm. And Dolores Cannon was a past life regression therapist, and a lot of her clients had past lives in other civilizations. And so it really speaks to the starseed conversation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So yeah, we did it, Mik. We talked about aliens. And if you're still here, thank you. Look, I always tell Mik that with any concept that we introduce, I'm kind of like, look, the human existence is an experiment. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, leave it. And so I hope that if you're still here, that this is something maybe you're interested in, that you'll explore further and maybe see what comes up. Before we go, we want to remind you to check out our Patreon. You can find it on patreon.com/chakras and shotguns, or check the link in the show notes. We had that amazing full moon workshop that was live. We're planning on doing more live events, including in-person events. And if you're in LA, you want to make sure that you're in the know so you can know where we're going to be at. Become a patron and also sign up for the free newsletter so you're not the last to find out what we're doing.
And finally, guys, if you're loving the show, please subscribe and give us 5 stars wherever you listen.
Namaste, my alien friends.